Hey guys, it's me. Since it's towards the end of March and it's getting closer to Godzilla vs. Kong, which I am super excited about, and funny thing, that comes after my birthday. But anyway, there's been I've been trying to think of different ideas of what I wanted to do since I'm quite a hardcore Godzilla fan, Kaiju fan, whatever you want to call it. I wanted to do something just for that occasion, but I didn't know exactly what to do. So, I kept thinking about it, trying to think of something special. I couldn't really think of anything. I'm not that creative, even though I am, technically. But anyway, aside from that, basically what I figured something easy for me to do would be to just basically go over my entire DVD collection of Kaiju-related material. Whether it be Godzilla, Gamera, King Kong, TV shows of Tokusatsu, Kaiju, whatever, and dinosaurs, and just any other type of giant monster, mainly. I have a really huge collection, you'll see it right there, and there's even a separate shelf for the TV shows. It's crazy. There's a lot to pack in there. I'll go over mainly some of the important, the main DVDs and Blu-Rays of the whole collection. And then there's the VHSs, which I've had since I was a little kid, and even some miscellaneous DVDs, which are technically, they're still part of the collection, but it's not something that I, put out there really. It's just sort of a miscellaneous collection or whatever you want to call it. So I'll just go around that. I'm not gonna go over the video games and all that stuff. Maybe I'll do more of some of my other DVDs, other movies, horror, action, all that stuff. Maybe I'll do that in another video. But for now, I just wanted to go over just all the movies and TV shows, etc. So first, we'll go over the VHSs right now. So here, and of course this isn't, for what I organized these as much as I could for some of the DVDs, some of them are in triple features, double features, whatever. I basically put them in year order, chronologically, basically starting with King Kong 1933 and then all the way towards, whatever is the current monster movie that's out, or that came out. So first I'm just going to go over the VHSs, because, VHSs are quite interesting. So here I got Rodan, the very first Rodan from 1956, and it's in okay shape, I guess you would say. There's some creases in the back and all that, but I would still say that it's still, a pretty cool, interesting looking VHS. And for the Treasure videos, they put out lots of different Godzilla and monster related movies that are out. I guess they were just sort of the that company that just was well, we need to put a monster out on VHS, so let's get to it. Other than that, Rodan is okay. Not really one of my favorites that I would watch, but of course, I was young at the time when I saw this. It was oh, cool, but it just didn't seem like anything that really interested me. But it's still really cool to add to have in my collection. And then we have, it's not technically Kaiju related, but anything that has to do with a stop motion monster, or even if it's a monster that's bigger than a human, I would count in my collection. A good example is Ray Harryhausen, who actually helped with Mighty Joe Young and was basically Willis O'Brien's teacher. I guess Willis O'Brien was the teacher of Ray Harryhausen, and Willis O'Brien was known for doing King Kong. But anyway, so I got 20 Million Miles to Earth on VHS. Definitely one of my favorite Ray Harryhausen movies, just because it's a giant alien monster. And yeah, it was really cool. I had another movie on VHS, The Giant Claw. Another one of my favorite movies that's so bad it's good. But sadly, I don't know what happened to that VHS. We might have given it away. I don't know why. But lots of other things have happened to VHSs over the years. I had a Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah VHS, which was awesome, but one of my dogs chewed it up. And then my dad had a King Kong Lives VHS, and he got rid of that for some reason. And no surprise that I've mentioned this, I've probably mentioned this to people before, and you might have known it too, where it's we had a Godzilla 1998 VHS, of course, and I guarantee you'll find at least one copy of that movie in a Goodwill. One or two if you're lucky, and of course Titanic. But anyway, so yeah, 20 Million Miles to Earth, definitely one of my favorite Harryhausen movies. And of course, this is, to me, it's a prized possession. My dad got this at a Kmart, but again, it's just something that I really want to cherish for basically the rest of my life, because this is something that means a lot to me. The original King Kong vs. Godzilla on VHS. Of course, it's not in the best shape, But again, this was something as a kid I used to watch like so many times. Like, I watched it over and over. Like, as soon as the movie was done, I would just rewind it and just, watch it again. It was just so amazing for me to watch, like, two of the most famous monsters of all time just fight each other. I just loved it. And I still love it to this day. It's one of my favorite movies ever. The cover is interesting, I guess. And, of course, the back is pretty cool, too, because it has, the two monsters, fighting at the pagoda or whatever. Other than that, it's still something I love. It's absolutely something I love. And here we got another Video Treasures VHS of Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Of course, later it was changed to Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, but it's still another one of my favorite Godzilla movies, definitely, because this also introduces King Ghidorah, which is Godzilla's famous villain. And the artwork is actually a bit interesting because it doesn't exactly look like it was in the movie. It's like someone saw the movie or pictures of it or something like that and thought, well, let's make up my own art, because Mothra looks a bit weird. And Rodan looks decent. Godzilla looks kind of like a puppet, and Ghidorah is all orange for some reason. Other than that, this VHS is okay. Nothing else to really say about it, but again, I remember watching this as a kid. It was pretty entertaining for me to watch. This I found not that long ago, actually. We have Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. I found this at a Goodwill. I just, stumbled upon it. Every now and then I just look to see if they have anything, and I found this, and it's like, oh, cool. I don't really plan to watch it anytime soon, because, Godzilla vs. Monster Zero isn't really one of my favorite Godzilla movies, but it's still okay, really. It's not bad, really. But the VHS just kind of, surprised me. It was just like, oh, sweet. The artwork, of course, with this style of Godzilla movies on VHS is pretty cool. It's not in the best shape, obviously, because it went to a Goodwill. There's like some tape trying to keep it together and all that. But yeah, nothing else to say about that, really. I just got it just because, well, it's a Godzilla VHS, so why not? Another one of my favorite kaiju movies, War of the Gargantuas. Now, the art style is pretty cool, but of course, the movie's a lot better, really. Like, it's pretty good. It's basically a sequel to a movie, which I'll get to in a little bit. But as a kid, at first my parents were like, I don't know if you want to watch this movie, or something like that. I don't remember. I could be wrong. But, once I watched it, it was just so entertaining and a lot of fun to watch. It was so great. If you ever get the chance to, see this somewhere, whether it be on HBO Max or whatever, or even if you can find this on DVD somehow or on Hulu, wherever, I recommend that you watch this. And then we have Godzilla vs. Megalon. Of course, Now, in America, there's been so many copies of Godzilla vs. Megalon here released in the U.S. on VHS. There are so many. I'm not even joking. It's not funny. Of course, this, I believe this is when, before my dad and I, started getting DVD after DVD, we were still using VHSs, and I was young at the time. This is a different type of VHS cover than the actual VHS itself. From what this says it's a Star Classics VHS here, but when you actually look at the actual VHS, it says it's Good Times, in which King Kong vs. Godzilla released that. Other than that, this is okay, I guess. The back cover is at least cool because it shows a picture of all the monsters there. Nothing else to say about that, really. And here we have Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, another one of my favorite Godzilla movies. It's pretty good. I have to say that this VHS is actually pretty cool looking because there's like gold lines around it, and kind of interesting of how it says like horror sci-fi at the side. And then it shows like a couple pictures there of the monsters and all that. I have to say this is actually pretty good. Nothing else to say about it really, but it's still VHS, so that's pretty decent. And this is technically the exact same movie, but except they changed the title and the artwork. This time, instead of Mechagodzilla, they just called it Godzilla vs. Cosmic Monster. Whatever. One of those weird title changes. The artwork in this is actually not that bad. It's pretty cool. Other than that, nothing else to say about it, really. This time it was released by Good Times rather than Star Maker. But other than that, nothing else to say about it, really. It's basically the exact same movie, except for some reason they just called it Cosmic Monster. I don't know. And then, again, this was another one of those things that my dad bought a while ago. Another Good Times one. Ape. Now, if you're familiar with Ape, or if you're not familiar with Ape, basically Ape is basically a King Kong ripoff. This was trying to cash in on the 1976 King Kong movie, and it was like a South Korean and American co-production, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It is just so boring. I don't even want to get into it, but there is like an infamous scene. I'll get to that in a little bit probably. And then here we have sort of an obscure one. Actually not in too bad a condition, but Planet of Dinosaurs. Not that great of a movie, to be perfectly honest. It's just a bunch of guys that just wander around walking around a desert, sort of like Planet of the Apes. And eventually they encounter dinosaurs, but the only good thing I can say about this movie is that the stop motion on the dinosaurs is actually pretty okay for, like, you know, Harryhausen standards. But I assume that was pretty much the entire budget for that. Other than that, the movie is absolutely terrible, and the ending was pretty anticlimactic. It's not that great. And this was another one that I found at Goodwill, and oh, surprise, surprise, it's another Video Treasures thing. This is called Hollywood Dinosaurs. I assume this is one of those, like, things for little kids to watch for a good hour or something like that. And at the front it says, like, starring King Kong, Godzilla, Rodan, and Gorgo. Gorgo, that's pretty funny. And I assume this is, like, you know, something you'd probably find at, like, a library, or maybe your teacher would show you or something like that. Other than that, I believe it just shows, well, on the back right here, it actually says it includes scenes from The Lost World, Valley of Gwangi, or well, they just call it Gwangi for some reason, 1 million BC, it's called 1 million years BC, Gorgo, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, Godzilla, and many others. So basically it just shows, like, what dinosaurs are in Hollywood movies and all that, so that's pretty cool. I gave it a watch myself, and it's alright. It's perfect for kids, I guess. And the final part of the VHS collection that I currently have is Godzilla 2000. Again, this was not one of my favorites as a kid. Not really another one of my favorites currently, but it's alright, honestly. The only thing I like about this VHS is the fact that it has one of those, like, pop-out VHS covers where you can actually feel the texture on the poster. And it's actually pretty cool. Other than that, nothing else really to say about this, but it's still pretty cool. So that's it for my VHS collection. Now it's time to get into the main course, if you will, of the entire DVD collection. Okay, and to start off, we will show the King Kong double feature. The original King Kong and Son of Kong, both from 1933. This contains basically 2 discs, and it's pretty cool, honestly. I found this at a Walmart. You could probably find this at a Walmart too, or just online. With the original King Kong, obviously a true classic. Nothing else can top it, really. Pretty great. And for Son of Kong, if you want to give it a watch, then go ahead. It's just not that great, really. I was just mainly there to get both movies because, hey, cool, sure, why not? 2 movies, why not? And, you know, for the original King Kong, I feel like this was pretty cool to have. Even if you're not a fan of Son of Kong, it's alright. And with Son of Kong, it was kind of a rushed movie. You kind of rushed into production, half a budget and all that stuff. But other than that, this is still a pretty decent collection if you want to start off your whole monster collection, or even just get the original King Kong for that. Then go ahead. Next, we have another great one, basically coming from Willis O'Brien, who you know, basically directed King Kong, and also from Marion C. Cooper, who also helped with the original King Kong, Mighty Joe Young from 1949. This was, you know, I've heard about this before I even saw it, and I didn't know what to make of it. The only one that I even saw first was like that remake that Disney made in the 90s. I remember seeing it when I was a kid, still in elementary school, and it was pretty boring. I don't really remember much of it. But with this, when I saw it, I really liked it. It was impressive, and it's a masterpiece. This is probably what Son of Kong probably should have been, but it's really good, really entertaining, and it's pretty amazing. Nothing else to say about it, really, but it's pretty good. So if you ever get the chance to watch it, I highly recommend it. Then we have kind of an interesting collection right here. We have what's called the Science Fiction Classics, a 6-film collection, or technically it's 7, but I'll get to that in a bit. So basically, it has 6 discs and 7 movies technically. So we have Howard Hawks' The Thing, like the original Thing, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which is a Ray Harryhausen movie, and this basically inspired you know, one of the creators of Godzilla to actually make Godzilla. So without this movie, Godzilla may not have never existed. And then we have the giant ant movie Them. And then we have Forbidden Planet with Leslie Nielsen from the Naked Gun movies, which I'm still shocked about, and good old Robbie the Robot there. And then here we have World Without End, but they also have a bonus movie, Satellite in the Sky. And then, of course, they have the original H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. So, yeah, you can, you know, even though the DVD says it says 6-film collection, the only thing it mentions is, you know, World Without End, but Satellite in the Sky is there. So why they wouldn't include that in there, or just call it a 7-film collection, is beyond me. I don't know. But technically it's a 7-film collection, not a 6-film collection. I assume that this would probably turn off the average consumer if they wanted to get them all. I'm not sure exactly. And of course we have the original Gojira, or just Godzilla from 1954. This is pretty great, honestly. It has a little booklet in there, which is pretty nice. And of course it has both the original Japanese version from 1954 and the Americanized re-edit from 1956 starring Raymond Burr. Obviously, since I'm an American, I watched the Raymond Burr version a lot when I was young. But I did get the chance to watch the original Japanese version not that long ago, and it's pretty good, honestly. If you ever get the chance to see either version, I really recommend that you do. And here we have Godzilla Raids Again on DVD. This was one I watched kind of a handful of times because, you know, I never really saw the second Godzilla movie a lot. Other than that, this movie really isn't that great. Mainly the American version. But I recommend watching the Japanese version only because for some reason in the American version, Anguirus, who is Godzilla's first ever foe and would later be his ally, you hear his roar a lot for Godzilla's roar in the American version, which of course they call Gigantus. Stupid explanation, stupid history behind that, but other than that, I'm just going to move on. Now this isn't exactly an official release. I'm known for buying bootlegs because I just want the movies. I don't care if it takes them 50 years to make them, but I just want them. This is kind of a very obscure movie called Half Human. Of course, this is not an official release. This was, I believe I got this from, I got it from some website. I don't recall the name of it, but it's like some guy in an ape suit. It has both, like, you know, the original US version and the Japanese version, which I'm shocked there was even 2 versions of it. But, yeah, this might have been how people might have been inspired to make King Kong vs. Godzilla. I don't know exactly. But I got it just because it's a Toho movie, so why not? Here we have a Mill Creek released set, which I believe I got it at a Menards one time. And it's pretty cool. It has 20 Million Miles to Earth, The Giant Claw, which I mentioned. And it's another one of those so bad it's good movies, so I recommend it just because. It Came from Beneath the Sea, which not really my favorite because it's pretty slow, and of course the original Mothra from 1961. It basically has all 4 movies on one entire disc, and I'm still shocked about that, of how it has all that. And then here we have Shout Factory, or not Shout Factory, here we have Tokyo Shock's release of The Mysterians. I watched this not that long, a little while ago actually. It's okay. Special effects wise, it's actually not too bad. It's just that the English dub for it seems like it was just recorded like recently. Other than that, nothing else to say about it except that Mogira's in there. So there's that. And here we have, I'm only counting this just because, you know, there isn't really any room to make it anywhere else. But, you know, technically this is still, I guess you would say it's a monster movie because it's like bigger than an actual average human. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman on DVD. The poster is obviously very infamous, but not really one of my favorite movies, to be honest. It's very slow and drawn out, and even when it gets towards the end of the film, it actually shows the 50-Foot Woman, but there's some bad matte effects, bad screen effects for that, and it's not really that great, to be perfectly honest. I still like the poster, though, but other than that, this isn't really one of my favorite movies. Next we have another Tokyo Shock release, Varan the Unbelievable. I was actually pretty excited to get this, but this really isn't that great, to be honest. This only has the Japanese version, of course, because this has, like, you know, the original audio, the original Varan roars and all that. Nothing else to say about it really, but I really like Varan because he's one of the very obscure Godzilla monsters who's only appeared in like 2-ish movies. Other than that, this movie really isn't my favorite, to be honest. And speaking of which, I do have not an official release, but the American version of Varan the Unbelievable, and it's basically re-edited with American scenes, kind of like how the American version of Godzilla was in 1956. And for some reason, Varan's roars are replaced in this movie. Why? I don't know, but it's pretty... Believe it or not, I feel like it's a bit worse in the American version. And here, this was another one I found at Walmart, a Icons of Sci-Fi Toho collection. This has the H-Man, Battle in Outer Space, and the original Mothra. There's at least 3 discs in here, and they all contain their original Japanese version and the American version. So I can only say that's pretty cool. I did get to watch the H-Man, some of the H-Man, and a little bit about Battle in Outer Space. Not really something I would watch every now and then, but they're okay. And of course Mothra's in there. And lots of people would probably say, hey, how come you don't have Mothra just by itself on, like, you know, the Mill Creek release Blu-ray? It's like, I would like that, but I'm just more of a DVD person, really, because it's cheaper, it's just easier to get. I understand high quality on Blu-ray is great, but Blu-rays are just a tiny bit more expensive, and I don't want to have to get more room for just, you know, a movie that I already got like twice. So, moving on. Another movie that I got just because it was a giant monster, the Giant Behemoth. Nothing really else to say about it. It's not one of my favorite movies. It's just blah. Honestly, it's okay. Well, I don't know if it's okay. I don't remember it really. Like, I saw it not that long ago, really, but I just couldn't really think of anything to say about it. So that's that. Here we have Reptilicus. I decided why not. You might have seen this on, like, Mystery Science Theater season 11. Of, like, their first episode. It's a silly, weird movie, but, you know, it's still a giant monster movie in my eyes. There's some interesting, like, fun facts on the back, which is kind of funny. But other than that, nothing really else to say about it. And, of course, we have Gorgo, a pretty infamous monster, I guess you would say. The first British kaiju, I guess you would say. And the funny thing is that, like, the best outright monster shocker since King Kong. Now, this came out in 1961. And in America, Godzilla was released in '56, so have they not seen Godzilla? I don't know. But, you know, it's still a good movie, honestly. It's not that bad. Of course, there's the whole slogan, too, where it's like, nothing like you've ever seen before. Again, if you saw Godzilla, there would be mixed opinions, but whatever. It's still a pretty good movie. If you get the chance to see it, I highly recommend it, or you can even watch the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode on that. We have another not official release, but this was a movie I wanted to get for a while, Gorath. This basically involves like a giant meteorite heading for Earth, and this does, it's like a thin case too, but it includes 2 discs, surprisingly, and it has both the original Japanese version and American version. Now the reason why I wanted this is not just because it's a Toho movie, but it also has like a kaiju in there, Magma, which is a giant walrus. For some reason he was completely cut from the American version, but he is in the Japanese version. So there's that. Nothing else to say about this. Like it almost looks like an official release, but we've never really gotten one on DVD. And of course we have good old King Kong vs. Godzilla on DVD. I've seen like handful of releases on this. Like there was like a Blu-ray steelbook with basically the exact same cover, and then I've seen like a 3-film collection with like Peter Jackson's 2005 King Kong, this movie, and King Kong Escapes. But I'm the kind of person who wants to have them by themselves just to put it in your order. It would save up room and all that, but I'm just that kind of person who just wants, you know, movies by themselves as much as possible, just to put them in a chronological year order. I'm just that kind of a person. And here we have another Tokyo Shock release of Matango Attack of the Mushroom People. This is another Toho related movie. It's not a kaiju movie, but it's still one I'm okay with having in my collection. It's more of a horror movie and has some actors from other Godzilla movies. Other than that, nothing else to say about it really, but other than that, it's pretty weird. So watch it if you want. And then we have Atragon, which is another Tokyo Shock release, and this introduces Manda, which is a giant serpent. Another obscure Godzilla monster. Nothing really to say about it because I have mixed feelings on it. It's okay effects-wise, really. It's not bad, but it's not one I'd watch every now and then. Here we have Mothra vs. Godzilla. It's a pretty decent monster movie. Not one of my favorites, but it's alright for what it is, really. And here we have another Tokyo Shock release of Dagora, a very obscure and really weird monster. It's like some sort of space octopus or something like that. The movie really isn't that great. I expected to see more of like what Dagora could do and all that, but other than that, nothing else to say about it really. And of course we have Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, which is another one of my favorite Godzilla movies. Nothing else really to say about it other than it's pretty cool looking. So there's that. And here we have Frankenstein Conquers the World, or Frankenstein vs. Baragon. This was one movie I really wanted to see for an extremely long time. And it's really entertaining, honestly. It's actually pretty good. Nothing else to say about it, but it's definitely one of my favorite Kaiju movies, I guess you would say. And there's a sequel to it, I'll get to that in a second. But now we have the original and very first Gamera, or just Gamera the Giant Monster. Basically, this was sort of like Godzilla's box office ally in Japan. Basically, he's sort of like a knockoff of Godzilla, but he's a fire-breathing turtle, and he can also fly. Yeah, a flying turtle. Never heard of that. So yeah, this is basically the Shout Factory release, and this only has the Japanese version. It's alright for what it is. Again, it kind of copies the original Godzilla, even though this came out in 1965. It's in black and white, only has Gamera. Nothing else to say about it, but it's okay. And here we have Invasion of Astro Monster, or Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. Again, not one of my favorite movies, but it's okay for what it is. And then here we have another not official release. Cultaction.com, that's where I got that and Half Human from, and I think a couple others. So there's this, the Magic Serpent. Basically, only at the beginning and at the end, it's like these samurai warriors or whatever from Japan turn into giant monsters or whatever. It's really weird and pretty boring, pretty drawn out. But of course, they do kind of like basically copy Godzilla roars in there, basically, I believe, without their Toho's permission or something like that. I'm not really sure. But other than that, nothing else to say about this movie. And here we have Gamera vs. Baragon, a sequel to Gamera with Gamera, and it sounds a little similar to Baragon, but of course Baragon came before Baragon. This, of course, also has the Japanese version only. Other than that, nothing else to say about it. Next we have a trilogy of movies on Blu-ray, and surprisingly this was actually kind of a bit expensive, even though this came from a Goodwill. This is the Daimajin triple feature. Basically it has Daimajin, Return of Daimajin, and Daimajin Strikes Again. I do not like these movies. They are boring, and Daimajin doesn't even appear until the very end of all these movies. I find it cool of how it's like a statue that comes to life and punishes people back in like the old times in Japan for samurais or whatever. But it's just not really my favorite. It's not entertaining. I don't doubt that people like these movies, but it's just not something I enjoy, really. I mean, it's cool, I guess, but, you know, I don't know. It's just nothing I like. Here we have a pretty cool double feature of Rodan and War of the Gargantuas. It has a cool documentary in with the Rodan DVD, and War of the Gargantuas is potentially a sequel to Frankenstein Conquers the World. Supposedly, Frankenstein's cells have, like, you know, gone off and, like, you know, multiplied as, like, two Gargantuas, which are basically brothers. One lives in the water, one lives on land. And, you know, they kind of mention Frankenstein in the Japanese version, but all mentions of Frankenstein in the American version are basically cut. For reasons I don't know, but it's still one of my favorite movies. And Rodan's there too, just in case you want that. And then here we have kind of an interesting bunch. The animated series of King Kong. I believe Rankin Bass made it. And Rankin Bass is known for making other things like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, and all that stuff. So this was like something that they made, and this kind of inspired, this was inspired to make a movie out of it that Toho helped with to make it. I watched a few minutes of it. It's okay, I guess, but it's not something I would enjoy watching all the time. But the other interesting thing is that it includes like 4 bonus episodes of something called Tom Thumb. So yeah. And then here we have a Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. Again, not one of my favorite Godzilla movies, but, you know, it's still part of the collection. Nothing else to say about it, really. Here we have 1 million years BC, and you may be a little bit confused as to why there's a really gorgeous woman named Raquel Welch on there. Well, she's sort of the main character on there. and she's absolutely gorgeous in the movie. But other than that, mainly it's a movie about dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, creatures, whatever. Again, this is another Ray Harryhausen movie, and I highly recommend this. It's pretty entertaining. And here we have a Gamera double feature of Gamera vs. Gaios and Gamera vs. Virus. Gamera vs. Virus was like one of the first movies I saw of Gamera, but it was titled as Destroy All Planets, and it was on a very crappy looking, low budget, low quality DVD, like VHS quality. But this is all in great quality thanks to Shout Factory, and having a double feature on it is pretty cool. I do wish they kind of did it with Gamera and Gamera vs. Baragon, because even these include like 2-3 different dubbings in English, but it's still alright for what it is, really. And here, this was kind of a hard one for me to get, because this is from the Criterion Collection, I believe. Yeah, the Criterion Collection, and this was like included in like a few other movies that no one really cares about. But the X from Outer Space. Now, this was a thin case because there were like 3 other thin cases that came with it, but nobody else really cares about it. It's pretty expensive for what it was just to find it itself alone, and this is basically a movie about a alien monster named Gilala, and he'll get a sequel eventually. I'll talk about that in a little while. But other than that, this movie is nothing else to say about it other than it's just another kaiju movie. There's not an official release of it by itself. All it is that there's just a release with, with other movies. I don't know what they are, and I don't care for them. I just wanted this for X from Outer Space, and that was it. And here we have kind of an interesting one, Gappa the Triphibian Monsters. This shows kind of like a Griffin-style kaiju trying to rescue their baby. It's sort of like the same with Gorgo, except there's 2 monsters added. I believe I gave this a watch maybe a couple of years ago, and it's okay for what it is. Nothing special, really. It's just another one of those 67 movies where, like, in the 60s, like, mainly the late 60s is where, like, kaiju movies in Japan were really starting to take off, and that's, like, the thing lots of people wanted to see back in the day. Gamera is an example of that, X from Outer Space is a good example, and so is this. Lots of people back in the 60s tried to cash in on that. And since you remember seeing the King Kong series, this was the movie that inspired it, King Kong Escapes. Not that bad of a movie, it's okay for what it is. Before Mechagodzilla existed, Kong fought Mechanic Kong. Of course, he was not made to fight King Kong, it was just more of a coincidence, really. But other than that, this is another okay movie. This was basically in co-production with Rankin Bass and Toho, so it's pretty cool. And here we have an interesting double feature of Yongary and another King Kong ripoff called Konga. Yongary is just another one of those 67 Godzilla ripoffs. Nothing else to say about it, really. It's mainly a South Korean production, so it's okay. And with Konga, actually not that bad. It's interesting just because of how Michael Goff does some pretty good acting, and it's like a chimpanzee grows into a man-sized ape and then grows even larger. Obviously with having it close to sounding like Kong, I believe they got legal trouble with that. But other than that, Konga's pretty entertaining for what it is. And then we have Son of Godzilla. Again, not one of my favorite Godzilla films, but it's still Godzilla, I mean, yeah. And then the last part of like the shelf that I have, the first shelf on my DVD case, is Destroy All Monsters. Another one of the movies that would be my favorites, but it's pretty slow. You get to see some monster action, like some of the monsters destroying the cities, which is cool. You see a lot of monsters in the movie. Some make brief cameos like Baragon and Baran, which is pretty disappointing. But the end fight is actually pretty entertaining. But the whole movie kind of focuses on humans. I'm not going to get into that. But it's an okay movie. It's a popular movie, no doubt, but it's just not that entertaining unless you actually skip all the way to the fight. So yeah. So that ends the first bit of that collection on the first shelf. So then I'll move on to the second shelf. Okay, so now I'm going to get more into the other DVDs where it's like towards the 70s and all the way to the 90s. So to start off, we have another double feature of Gamera movies, Gamera vs. Giron and Gamera vs. Jiger. Giron's actually not that bad, it's a bit entertaining, and Jiger is again, the Gamera movies, once you've seen them all, you'll get the whole gist of it, really. And here we have quite an interesting Ray Harryhausen movie, The Valley of Gwangi. Not too bad, really. Nothing else to say about it, really, other than it's actually pretty cool. And here we have Latitude Zero. This includes both the Japanese version and American released version. This was both like a Japanese and American co-production, and this even has the guy who played as the Joker from the Batman TV series in the 60s. And it's pretty alright, honestly. Effects-wise, it's actually pretty cool. And here we have another King Kong ripoff movie called Mighty Gorga, which also includes a porno movie called 1 Million AC/DC. Don't recommend either of these because Mighty Gorga is terrible. Nothing else to say about it other than it's just another King Kong ripoff. Here we have All Monsters Attack, or more well known as Godzilla's Revenge. Undoubtedly one of the worst Godzilla movies because all it shows is just stock footage from other Godzilla movies. Nothing else to say about it. Here we have one of the Kaiju movies where it's not really one of my favorites. Space Amoeba. It introduces like 3 other Kaiju, Ghidorah, Ganymedes, and Amoebas, who you'll see later in another Godzilla movie, sort of. But other than that, nothing else to say about this movie, really. Here we have another Gamera double feature, Gamera vs. Zigra, which is okay, and definitely the worst Gamera movie, Gamera Super Monster. Now, if you remember me talking about Godzilla's Revenge, this is basically the Gamera version of Godzilla's Revenge. This came out in 1970, I believe, and it shows literally stock footage. It is lazy and terrible. I do not recommend you ever watch this movie. Unless, like, you've never seen any of the Gamera movies, and that's probably a good place to start, I guess. And here we have Godzilla vs. Hedorah on DVD. This was a Kraken releasing DVD. Now, since some of the, like, those 50th anniversary DVDs of Godzilla, like Sea Monster, Gigan, and Hedorah, were kind of rare-ish, I guess you would say, Kraken releasing came in and actually released this and a few others, but they did not get the rights or something to re-release Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which is rare and expensive to find because there's only one copy of that exists on DVD, so that's kind of a shame. But it's still pretty cool of how Kraken Releasing got the chance to release these movies. So there's that, and Godzilla vs. Hedorah is pretty weird. Another one of the pretty bad Godzilla movies, Godzilla vs. Gigan, but it has an interesting faux Gigan. Another Kraken Releasing DVD, nothing else to say about it really. Here we have another one of these pretty bad Godzilla movies, but this was one that was slightly entertaining because if you haven't seen a lot of the Godzilla movies, this is a pretty interesting spot to pick off. Godzilla vs. Megalon. Nothing else really to say about it other than this was a movie of where I saw like my very first episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000 on DVD. And I do own a copy of Volume 10, which I found at a Goodwill, and this is how I became a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan. Without that collection, I probably never would have known anything else or liked Mystery Science Theater. Funny thing is that like they thought they had the rights to release that movie on DVD, but apparently they didn't, so they released a DVD of 10.2 of the giant Gila monster, so they tried to replace that with it, but of course since Volume 10, like the actual Volume 10 with Godzilla vs. Megalon is kind of a rare item, I'm actually quite glad that was my first thing, because I got that at a Goodwill, and that's rare, and that's expensive. I don't want anything to happen to that DVD because of how awesome that is. And of course I have the 10.2 DVD, the giant Gila monster, but that's pretty cool, honestly. Like, what are the chances of that? But anyway, this is kind of an interesting type of DVD because there's like 2 different versions of this DVD. There's one where it just has the movie, and this is like a re-release or something like that, where it actually has some special features and a couple of Easter eggs, I think. But other than that, nothing else to say about it, really. Here we have Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. As I said, another pretty good Godzilla movie. Again, it's just kind of stupid of how rare and expensive that these movies are because there only exists one copy of it on DVD released by TriStar in Columbia. There hasn't been any re-releases. Kraken Releasing hasn't been able to release this. But other than that, nothing else to say about it, really. Here we have Terror of Mechagodzilla. Again, not one of my favorite Godzilla movies, but it's okay, I guess. And this is basically the Godzilla movie that concludes the original first series, or the Showa series, if you will. So there's that. And I've already talked about Ape, another King Kong ripoff, but it's pretty bad, as I said. Nothing else to say, but And another interesting thing is that there's even a Blu-ray that they released it where you can actually watch it in 3D, as if there's something to see in that movie. And here we have another King Kong ripoff, Queen Kong. Terrible. I understand it's like a spoof with British comedy and all that stuff, but it's just bad. From what I understand, this was like never ever released in theaters because, you know, with the whole legal issues with the 76 King Kong coming out, they basically kept this movie from ever releasing in theaters. So this has basically been in like hiatus or something like that for a few years, and then it finally eventually was released on DVD. But again, I don't know if it was worth it because the movie is absolutely terrible. Here we have an interesting one from Shaw Brothers, who are from Hong Kong. This is a movie called Super Inframan. It is bonkers, but it's filled with action and explosions like you've never seen. It's an interesting movie, but I don't know what to say about it. If you want to watch it for yourself, go ahead. I looked at it online. It's actually a bit expensive from what I saw, but luckily I found this at like some sort of like collecting toy shop, and I was just happy to actually find this by accident, so that's pretty cool. And here we have the Dino De Laurentiis 1976 King Kong. It's not that great of a Kong film because there's no dinosaurs in it, all there is just a snake, but other than that, the effects in this movie are pretty good for what they are. Nothing else really to say about it. And here I already mentioned Planet of Dinosaurs, but I got it on DVD because, well, who knows why. Of course, I already mentioned this before, but it's not really that great, but, you know, got it on DVD. It has dinosaurs, stop-motion dinosaurs. What else? And here we have The Last Dinosaur, which is another Rankin Bass movie, but also not Toho, but Tsuburaya Studios, who Eiji Tsuburaya was a special effects director who helped with Toho. But anyway, Tsuburaya Productions helped with this, and basically it has rubber-suited dinosaurs. Nothing else to say about it, other than the movie's alright. And here we have quite a terrible movie, Legend of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds. This was a Toei released movie, and as you can see on the back of the DVD, it says the highest budgeted Toei feature of its time. Well, if it's high budgeted, good for them, but the movie is terrible. It's absolutely atrocious. And here we have, from 1977, another King Kong ripoff, Mighty Peking Man, but this is definitely, undoubtedly, one of the most entertaining King Kong ripoffs. This was also from Shaw Brothers Studios and released by Quentin Tarantino. Interesting, right? But it's actually pretty entertaining, a bit cheesy, but yeah, it's pretty good, honestly. I highly recommend it. And here we have the 3 DVDs of the complete Godzilla Hanna-Barbera collection. If you're familiar with Hanna-Barbera releasing like Scooby-Doo and all those types of cartoons, that's right, Hanna-Barbera also got its hands on Godzilla in the mid-70s. Kind of like how Marvel got their hands on Godzilla in the comics. But anyway, so there's like Volume 1 here, and Volume 2, you can get them for around $10, but for some reason Volume 3 is like over $80 and to $100. I have no idea why. Maybe it was because it was one of those out-of-print things where it's rare and nobody really cared, or they didn't release as much as they did before. I don't know, but I got them all, so I'm pretty happy about that. And here we have kind of an interesting stop-motion monster movie called Q the Winged Serpent. This is another one of those interesting movies where it was basically filmed. I don't really know the whole history on it, but it's pretty alright for what it is. It's a pretty interesting monster movie. Other than that, nothing really else to say about it. And here we have another Kraken releasing, and the Godzilla 1984, Godzilla 1985, Return of Godzilla, whatever, hasn't gotten any kind of DVD release here in the US. The only thing that we've gotten was 1985 when it was released in theaters in the US, with basically it being re-edited like the original 1954 Godzilla, with again Raymond Burr playing as his character Steve Martin, but of course changing his name to Mr. Martin. And there hasn't really been a release on DVD of that movie. And the closest thing that we got to was Kraken releasing the original Godzilla from 1984, but with an English dubbing. That's pretty interesting, but I still probably would have preferred the American version too. Not saying that there's a problem with the Japanese version, but it would have been nice to have the option to have, Raymond Burr. So now there's like 3-4 different versions you can watch, or 4 different ways you can watch the film now, like the original Japanese version with the original audio, or with the English dub, or just the original 1985 version. Yeah, maybe that's only three ways, but anyway. Moving on, we have kind of another dinosaur movie called Baby Secret of the Lost Legend, and this stars Sean Young and William Cott. Sean Young I know for being in Blade Runner and in Ace Ventura and Stripes. This movie is okay. I didn't get to watch a whole lot, but I feel like I might need to rewatch it, but nothing else really to say about it other than it's pretty interesting of how the effects are. So yeah. And here, this is another unofficial release, but of Pulgasari on DVD. This was sort of a movie that was banned for like about 10 years since its release, whatever. This was made in North Korea, and believe it or not, this was directed by Kim Jong-il. Yeah, that's right, Kim Jong-il. I don't know the whole story, but I believe it goes, he captured a couple from, I want to say South Korea, and basically forced them to make movies, and this was one of the movies that they were forced to make. And it's not really that great. If he liked it, then cool, good for him, but it's not really that great. The only cool thing I can say about it is that for the actor in the suit in Pulgasari was the Godzilla suit actor from the Heisei era, or the 90s, starting with 84 going until 1995. That can I at least say is pretty interesting. And here we have the sequel to King Kong 1976, King Kong Lives. Now, lots of people say this is the worst King Kong movie, but I don't know if I would say that, because I still find this to be alright. I find this to be pretty entertaining in a way. I saw that it's got like a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I still think it's okay. Then we have a Echo Bridge release, or Miramax release, whatever, of Godzilla vs. Biollante. Now, this was never really released here a lot in the US from what I understand. You could probably find this on VHS or HBO, whatever. So yeah, this is definitely one of the most overlooked Godzilla movies, but again, it's not really one of my favorites. The only sad thing is that with re-releases of this movie, it would include like 2 or 3 other movies on a bonus disc or something like that. It's like cool, but thankfully I got this movie just by itself. And here, I'm only counting this just because they're sort of like giant monsters. Here we have the 7-movie collection of Tremors. Oh yeah, all 7 movies. And there is a TV series that I have on DVD too, and I'll get to that in a bit. Other than that, nothing really to say about this. I do like the first 2 movies, but then like after a while the movies really drag on, and I haven't watched them all the way through like all the others, but I really do like the first 2. I really like them. I highly recommend it. Of course, I even saw like there was going to be another series of Tremors, but it was basically canceled even before the pilot was ever released, so that really sucks because I really wanted to see that. And here we have a double feature of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah and Godzilla and Mothra Battle for the Earth. Nothing else to say about this. Both movies are pretty good, but I really like King Ghidorah the best, obviously. And here we have Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, or just the 90s version of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. This was another one that I watched a handful of times as a kid. Nothing else to say about it other than it's pretty good. And here we have the HBO 1993 remake of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman starring Daryl Hannah. And I have to say, this is a lot better than the original version, mainly because they are very good at, at doing the effects, making Daryl look very huge as a 50-foot woman. And I really recommend this, actually. I recommend this more than I do the original. This is actually pretty good for what it is. Nothing else to say about it other than I'd recommend it. And here we have kind of another bland monster movie, Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon. I only got this just because this was another Toho movie and it has an 8-headed dragon, but that doesn't appear until the end of the film. Not really a movie I would watch again, it's just so if you like it, then that's okay. Here we have another double feature of the last 2 Godzilla movies from the second series, or the Heisei series if you will, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Destroya. Space Godzilla is not really one of my favorite movies. It's okay, but Destroy is definitely a good one, and pretty emotionally at the end, really. And then here we have Gamera returning in the 90s with a really great vengeance, if you will. Gamera Guardian of the Universe. Pretty good, actually. It's actually a lot more superior than it was back in the day. Very good. But there's also 2 more movies to come about that. Here we have a Full Moon collection of Mega Monsters. Now, Full Moon's known for releasing its very terrible direct-to-video low-budget movies like Puppet Master, Demonic Toys, The Ginger Dead Man, etc. But this has basically like 3 movies that are, well, bad, but they're still, guys in rubber suits. Zarkor and the Invader, terrible, but they did the best they could with making a kaiju film. And Kra the Sea Monster, they were trying to do their best with mocking Godzilla 98, but not that great. And there's like another movie called Monsters Gone Wild, but it's just a compilation of other Full Moon movies, but I don't really care for it, really. And here we have Gamera 2, or just Gamera Attack of Legion, and it's okay, I guess. Nothing really special to say about it, really. It's just another sequel to the Gamera Heisei era. And here we have the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy on Blu-ray. And it was released on DVD, only the first 2, and why the third one wasn't, I don't know. But this was basically the only way you could get your hands on the third one, is to basically have them all on Blu-ray. Not a problem with that, I guess, but it's still all the Mothra movies, all the Rebirth of Mothra movies together. So it's pretty cool. They're not great, really, but they're okay for what they are. It's still part of the Godzilla and Mothra legacy, if you will. And of course, the last part to end the second shelf would be the 1998 Godzilla. Now, honestly, it's not bad, but it's not great either. It just bears the name Godzilla. Like, if it was called something else, and I know lots of people have critiqued this enough as it is, but if this was called something else, then it probably would have been praised a bit better, rather than just having it be a schlock on the name of Godzilla. So that's that, and now it's time to move on to the last part of the shelf of the DVDs. Okay, so now moving on to the next part. I believe this is another unofficial release, but this came out not that long ago. The Mighty Kong, which is like a Warner Brothers released musical of the original King Kong. Nothing really I would recommend, but it's okay, I guess. I don't know. And here we have the sequel to the 1998 Godzilla the series. A lot better than the movie itself, because there's actual monsters in it, and it's pretty cool, actually. It also releases with 2 episodes that have been unaired. Mill Creek is known for releasing lots of shows that have unaired episodes, but Mill Creek released a pretty good collection for this, and I'm actually pretty happy about that. And here we have the last of the Gamera Heisei trilogy, Gamera Revenge of Iris. This was actually a pretty good Gamera movie for what it is. It's a lot different, and I like it for that way. And here we have another interesting kaiju movie, I believe a movie that tried to cash out on the 1998 Godzilla movie, Reptilian. Not that good of a movie. It has terrible CGI. Nothing else to say about it, really. Originally they did want to do suits for the movie, this monster actually fought another monster, but other than that, no, not that great. Nothing else to say about it, really. Terrible acting, terrible effects, not that great. And here we have a very great classic movie right here, The Iron Giant. And this is the signature edition, so I believe this movie comes with like an extended version. It's pretty good, honestly. Nothing else to say about it other than it's a childhood classic right here. I remember seeing this a couple times as a kid, but not enough times. Of course, I got to see it again not that long ago. Love it. Absolutely great. Nothing else to say about it, really, other than it's pretty good. Here we have Godzilla 2000 on DVD. Again, nothing else really to say about it other than it's Godzilla 2000 on DVD. And here we have another Kong series. This was from the early 2000s, and I believe I remember seeing at least a couple episodes when I was very young. But anyway, this is of like Kong the Animated Series. This is a 5-disc collector's box set that has the entire animated series and a movie called Kong Return of the Jungle, which is like completely 3D CGI or something like that. And so it has like 4 discs and of course the movie right there. This was a bit hard for me to find, surprisingly. But other than that, nothing else to say about it, really, but it's Kong related, so why not? And then we have Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Again, not one of my favorite Godzilla movies or enemies. It's just that it kind of annoys me when people mispronounce Megaguirus' name. They call him Megaguirus, whatever. But I just remember the name mostly from the video game of Godzilla Save the Earth. That's where I remember it the most. Other than that, nothing else really to say about it, but the movie's okay, I guess. But again, not my favorite Godzilla movie. But one of my favorite Godzilla movies, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, or GMK for short. It's pretty entertaining and pretty cool that Baragon is in it. Nothing else to say about it other than it's pretty good, and I recommend that you watch this. And here we have Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. A pretty decent movie. Nothing really else to say about it, but this is one of the Godzilla movies that I didn't really get the chance to see unless I got it on DVD. So I finally got to see it, of course, a while ago, a long while ago. But other than that, nothing else to say about it. And here we have the complete series of Tremors. I found this at a Walmart, coincidentally, and the series is nothing really that I would watch, but it's still giant, graboids. It's still part of the Tremors legacy or whatever, so there's that. And then we have the sequel to Against Mechagodzilla, Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Not that bad of a movie, really. It's pretty good. It includes Mothra in there, so it's pretty okay, honestly. And then we have kind of an interesting one. I don't really know why I got it. I think it's just because it's another Tokyo Shock release, but basically the Thailand movie that's inspired by Godzilla. That's what it says on the back. Garuda. I watched it, and it's nothing really that I would watch. And of course, we have the last of the Millennium Godzilla series, Godzilla Final Wars. Now, this Godzilla movie was, I believe, my very first Godzilla movie on DVD. I remember getting this at Shopko, and it is just absolutely insane just to see all the obscure and different monsters from all the old movies. And it's just really amazing. Is it perfect? No, of course not. It's sort of like a ripoff of The Matrix, but I still say that you should definitely get this a watch. If you have seen any of the older Godzilla movies, I definitely recommend this. This is pretty great for what it is. They definitely went out with a bang with the 50th anniversary of Godzilla. And here we have another one of the Godzilla ripoffs. I believe this came out in 2005. I'm not exactly sure, but this came out recently, like in Walmart's, I believe last year. Rego King of the Sea Monsters. Now, I believe this was another movie trying to cash in on the Godzilla King of the Monsters poster from 2019. Other than that, I haven't really watched it all the way through because it's a bit boring, but I mean, if people like it, then cool for that. And here, before the official Peter Jackson King Kong movie, we have another Kong animated movie, Kong King of Atlantis. Of course, this is one of the direct-to-video movies of the Kong animated series. It's one of those musicals, actually. Not that great. Absolutely terrible. But it's still a part of Kong's history, so whatever. And speaking of which, we have Peter Jackson's King Kong. Absolutely great. Too long and a bit boring in some places, but it's still a great movie. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend it. But again, this is one of the movies that was probably made for being in theaters, but it's still pretty entertaining, honestly. Loved it as a kid. I believe it was also the first King Kong movie I saw in theaters too. So there's that. And here we have a new Gamera movie, Gamera the Brave. Not that bad, really. It's actually pretty good. Nothing else to say about it. It's a bit different. Has some updated special effects and all that stuff, but it's okay for what it is. And here we have an interesting movie, The Host. This is, I believe, another South Korean monster movie. Nothing else to say about it. It's just a bit creepy and pretty interesting, really. And here we have a rather interesting monster movie, I guess if you want to call it that, Big Man Japan. This has got to be like one of the most bizarre and weirdest movies I've ever seen of a monster movie. There's not really a whole lot to say about it other than it's goofy and weird. See for yourself if you don't believe me. And here we have, I don't know why I added this to my collection, but it has it's like a South Korean American co-production, and it involves giant dragons or monsters, whatever. It's called Dragon Wars or D-War. There's nothing really to say about it. I tried to watch it all the way through. I couldn't really. It was just bland. I believe my mom got this for me like a few years ago, and honestly, nothing really good to say about it. It's just eh. And here, I only included this just because, it's sort of a giant monster movie, but again, I don't know if you would. I just wanted it just because I remember hearing about it back in the day, but then all of a sudden people forgot about it. The Water Horse. Of course, this is like one of those Loch Ness Monster type movies, but I only got it just because it's sort of like a giant monster movie. But if you don't want this, you want to add this to your giant monster collection, that's fine. I'm just that kind of weird person to add that in there. And then here we have the Cloverfield 3 movie collection. Of course, the first Cloverfield is like one of those found footage movies that focuses more on the humans, but it also focuses on a giant monster. It's actually pretty good for what it is. 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is the sequel, not that bad, but again, it's just a bit confusing of how it was a sequel to Cloverfield. I looked it up on YouTube, especially with the sequel, the Cloverfield Paradox. Pretty confusing, but also interesting in a way, sort of. It's just really downright confusing. But I have heard that J.J. Abrams is making an official sequel to the first Cloverfield, so hopefully we'll get that sometime soon, and I can't wait for that. If they're actually going to tie in more to the actual giant monster, that'll be great. And then here we have the sequel to The X from Outer Space. This time it's called Monster X Strikes Back, Attack the G8 Summit. It's a sequel to The X from Outer Space, but it's just really goofy, really. Like, it literally takes itself not seriously. It just basically makes fun of itself. So I really don't know if they're trying to take the movie seriously as an actual sequel or what, but it's really bizarre and really weird. But it's, yeah, weird. And the only thing that kind of irritates me about this is that it's only available in its original audio. It has people speaking in English and French and all this stuff. There are English subtitles with it, but the only audio option that there is just, audio with, Japanese audio with English subtitles. If you literally go into the audio section of the DVD, that's all it says. Japanese audio with English subtitles. That's the only option you get. So what's the point of that even existing? I don't know. That's just something I really wanted to talk about, just because it provokes me. Now this is kind of an interesting, extremely obscure, and in a way rare and expensive. Demi-King the Sea Monster. I tried to watch this and I just could not really watch it. It's just, nothing really to say about it, because this was, I'm one of those people who really wants to find the most obscure giant kaiju or monster movies. And this is what I'm talking about. This is obscure and something I've never heard of. And speaking of which, there has never been a release for as of this video of Daigoro vs. Goliath. This is another Toho-made monster movie, and I want there to be one. I don't understand how come this has never been released on DVD, but it really irritates me. But anyway, yeah, this is pretty obscure, and I tried to watch it. It's not something I would really watch ever again. And I'm only adding these to my collection just because it's sort of like a giant monster movie, but again, I loved this as a kid. Monsters vs. Aliens from DreamWorks, and of course the little bonus disc that came with it, Bob's Big Break. It even includes like 3D glasses. Again, I loved this as a kid. This had some those classic B-movie monster movies, including like Godzilla, 50-Foot Woman, The Blob, and all that. I just added this to my collection because, well, why not? And here we have an interesting one, again I believe also trying to copy Godzilla, Raiga, God of the Monsters. I do also know that there's going to be another one releasing soon on DVD called God Raiga vs. Monster Oga, I believe it's called. Of course, I'm the kind of person who wants these movies on DVD, because I've seen them release on just Blu-ray and VHS. I don't really understand the importance of VHS, but then months later, it will be released on DVD. Why that only is, I don't know. Because it's like, they released the Blu-rays, the same thing with Rego. They released Blu-rays and VHSs. For some reason, VHSs. I don't know why. It's stupid, honestly, in my opinion. But they release them on Blu-rays. Blu-rays is fine, but why can't you just release them on DVD too at the same... I don't understand that, but whatever. Moving on. And then here we have kind of an interesting found footage movie, Troll Hunter. Not that bad, really. Effects-wise, it's actually pretty interesting. I believe it's a Norwegian movie, and it's actually pretty good for what it is. It's a bit creepy, but also really good, really cool. Here we have a rather interesting movie, Death Kappa. Now, Kappa is like one of those ancient monsters or creatures, whatever, from Japanese folklore, whatever you want to call it. And it copies lots of different sounds from the Godzilla movies, I believe ripping it off or just copying the roars without their permission or something like that. And it's just really bad and really weird. The only thing that's weird about it is that at the beginning there's like a narrator that speaks in Japanese, but then the rest of the movie is, English dubbed if you want the option. So why that only person or narrator or whatever is speaking in Japanese when the rest of it is English dubbed? I don't know. I don't recommend this movie. It's pretty bad. And then, of course, we have the very first Pacific Rim. Nothing really else to say about it other than it's okay. Just giant Jaegers or giant robots, whatever you want to call them, just fighting kaiju. So there's that. And of course, we have gotten to the first of the MonsterVerse movies, Godzilla 2014. Funny thing, I just watched this not that long ago, just a little bit ago. And, you know, giving it a rewatch for like the 5th time after seeing this in theaters 3 times, the movie's fine. It's not great, lots of people have said that before, but it's a lot more superior than the 98 version. It's okay, but the later movies are a lot better than it. And then this is one I got at Walmart, Shin Godzilla. Now, I understand lots of people love this movie. I'm not one of those people. I found this to be boring, I found this to be terrible, I found this to be tedious, and I did not like the designs of Godzilla. The fact that his tail has a separate head on it, and it shoots lasers out of that, and he shoots lasers out of his back or something, I didn't like it. There were a couple things I liked about it, but it was just so boring. So many people talking. I came to a Godzilla movie to watch Godzilla destroy stuff, and it was too real. So yeah, I don't like this movie. If you liked it, then cool. Good for you. I'm fine with that. I'm not taking that away from you. I just didn't like this movie. I found it to be so boring. But anyway, moving on. Then we have an interesting movie starring Anne Hathaway, Colossal. It's actually not that bad of a movie. It's pretty interesting. Nothing really I want to spoil about it, really. But I say if you want to watch this, go ahead and watch it for yourself. It's pretty interesting, honestly. And here we have the second movie of the MonsterVerse, Kong Skull Island. Really good movie. Again, I found kind of an interesting theme of how there was like Marvel cast members from the MCU going into these movies. Interesting, but it's like, cool, whatever. It's still a pretty good movie, and there is a post-credits scene at the end of this, so if you haven't seen this, be sure to watch that. And then we have the sequel to Pacific Rim Uprising. The movie's okay. Nothing really great about it, to be perfectly honest. It's okay. Just not one of my favorites, not one I would watch again. It's just eh. And here we have Rampage. I avoided this movie just because, like, I didn't know exactly. I didn't know if it was an actual relation to the video game Rampage, and the fact that Dwayne Johnson appears in, like, a movie every month. The same with Morgan Freeman, or I don't know. But, you know, I did get to watch this, and honestly, it's not that bad. It's pretty cool. In a way, it does have some similarities to the video game, and I do like... I like it. It's okay. It's not bad, really. And of course, we have the third of the MonsterVerse movies, and definitely one of my favorite Godzilla movies, Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019. Absolutely a blast. I remember seeing this in theaters as if it were, well, 2 years ago, actually. And, oh man, it was so good. It was just absolutely amazing. I loved it, and I still love it to this day. But of course, I'm still hyped up for Godzilla vs. Kong coming out soon, so there's that. And of course, the last two I got on the collection, a parody or spoof, whatever, of Godzilla called Notzilla. It's interesting. I did the best I could to try and watch as much as I could of it. It's funny, but not something I would watch a lot. But it's okay, I guess you would say. It basically makes fun of itself because it's a spoof, parody, whatever. And of course, the last one is Monster Hunter, the recent one that just came out, I believe in December. Starring Mila Jovovich, and I had no idea this was also based on a video game, or that it is also produced or made with Toho. Toho was pretty much involved in this. The movie's fine, I guess, but it's not really something I found to be entertaining. So that's that for mainly the whole Kaiju Giant Monster collection on my shelves. Now I'll just go over some of the obscure DVDs that I have. So here I have like a Tokyo Shock trailer disc. There was like a handful of these that I had that went with lots of the Tokyo Shock release DVDs. So that's that. And then my very first ever Ultraman DVD. This was how I first got introduced into Ultraman. I got this at a Toys R Us a long time ago, and I am just now addicted to Ultraman just because it's in connection with Godzilla technically. Nothing else to say about it really other than this was my first ever Ultraman DVD. And then we have a Jan Gary DVD, nothing else to say about that. Then there's like a double feature, of course in low quality, of Gamera vs. Monster X, or Gamera vs. Jiger, and War of the Monsters, or Gamera vs. Baragon. And then here we have my first ever Gamera DVD that has Destroy All Planets, but also has Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, or GAPPA, the Triphibian monsters if you will. And This is one of those like cheap things you would probably find at a Dollar General or something like that. And then of course there's the Godzilla the Series Monster Wars trilogy. Nothing else to say about it, but this was the first time I ever saw the Godzilla or Zilla animated series. And then here we have the Gamera Legacy Collection, basically all 11 movies, not 12, all 11 movies in one whole thing. The only thing that's disappointing about it is that they have English subtitles, but just the original Japanese audio. I guess that's okay, but I prefer the Japanese, or the original, the English dub, preferably. And then we have the Godzilla Toho Collection, which has almost all of the Heisei-era Godzilla movies, the first 2 Rebirth of Mothra movies, and pretty much all of the Millennium Godzilla series. There's like most of them that have the English dub that come with them, but there's also a handful that for some reason have the Japanese audio with English subtitles. I guess that's okay, but nothing really that I would sneeze at. And of course we have Peter Jackson's deluxe extended edition of King Kong. Nothing else to say about it other than there's like 3 discs there. 2 of the discs are basically the whole filler of the extended movie, and I believe the other disc is just for special features. Other than that, nothing else to say about it. And for the other obscure stuff, speaking of King Kong, right here I have the King Kong Peter Jackson's production diaries. Even though this looks really big, actually I think I got it surprisingly cheap. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this was like the whole archived web series that Peter Jackson was making while making the 2005 King Kong, and this is all on like a really big disc set, and it has like 2 different DVDs and lots of. There's even like a certificate of authenticity on there, and different other stuff, even some like limited quality art prints, which are really cool. They feel really genuine. I'm actually pretty cool to have this, and I do like the way that this looks. It looks like a genuine like 1930s treasure box, whatever it's called, but it's pretty cool. I'm actually quite glad I have it. Again, it just kind of sticks out kind of like a sore thumb, but it's mainly I put it on like the top of my collection. There's no way to fit this in there, but it's still pretty cool to have. And the last part to end the miscellaneous DVDs collection or whatever is the Criterion Collection Showa Era Godzilla Collection. I probably already tried to review this in like that dumb hot sauce video I made. I don't know why I made that, but anyway, it's a really big thing. It's just like a big, large art book. As I talked about before, it has some really cool art, talks about Godzilla's history in the movies and all that, and of course it has 8 Blu-Rays, and most of them are in English, and most of them are in the original Japanese versions. The only reason why I got this was just to get the original Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla, and that was it. So that ends it for the miscellaneous and basically the entire collection of Godzilla, Giant Monster, Kaiju, whatever DVDs and Blu-rays. Now I'm just going to quickly get into some of the TV shows. Oh, I forgot about these of the miscellaneous things. My mom found these at a Goodwill of like these Ultraman VHSs. There's like one of them that's not in the right VHS case because the lettering looks different, but it's still pretty cool to have just because it's Ultraman related. So there's that. So now I'm just going to move on to the TV shows. So first I have another on not official released version, but Aegon the Atomic Dragon. This was like a 4-episode released series, and I believe it was canceled as soon as like people claimed that it was too similar to Godzilla. But Aegon's suit or whatever was later used in another TV series called The Space Giants. Again, this is not an official release. This really needs to get an official release in good quality and good audio, because most of the episodes are, have terrible quality in English dubbed, and lots of the episodes are only in Japanese versions, and you can't even understand it because there's no subtitles to go along with it. I guess this wouldn't be too bad of a series, again, if the quality was good and if there was an actual official release of it. Nothing else to say about it, really. And here we have the Shout Factory release of Ultra Q on DVD. I gave this a watch a while ago, and it's okay for what it is. Again, this was more of a Twilight Zone ripoff, just with giant monsters, and this was like the first of Tsuburaya Studios and the whole thing that spawned the Ultraman series. Speaking of which, the very first released Mill Creek Entertainment DVD release of Ultraman on DVD, and I absolutely loved watching this when I was young. It was so cool. The only thing that I have to say is that, like, on the DVD, it mentions that Ultraman is from Nebula M713. That is not right. It's M78, but again, they lots of releases need to do their research properly. But anyway, then we have the Shout Factory release of Ultra 7, and it was pretty cool for what it is. It looks really great. Nothing else to say about it really, other than it's a pretty good series. And then here we have the Shout Factory release of Johnny Sokko and his Flying Robot. The series is okay, I guess. Nothing special, really. Just okay. Just another one of those Kaiju sort of Ultraman trying to cash in on that thing. Speaking of which, we have another unofficial release, but a really large box set of Spectre-Man. I guess the series would be okay, but again, it would be better if this was just if there was an actual legit release of this, and in good quality too. And of course we have a terrible TV show, Iron King. Absolutely atrocious. I do not recommend this movie. It is boring, it is bad, and it feels like the exact same thing over and over and over. Of course this was released by Mill Creek, and even though there's only 3 discs, for some reason they released it in a really big box. And like that. Yeah. And the other thing that's pretty inaccurate is that it says created by brought to life by the same production team that created the Ultraman series. Incredibly inaccurate. I believe the exact same series who made Iron King also made this monstrosity, Red Baron, or the Super Robot Red Baron, whatever you want to call it. And heck, even on the back it says it's an action-packed series produced by the same team responsible for Ultraman and Iron King. They are not responsible for Ultraman. Super Eye Productions did Ultraman. But again, this was from a long time ago, so I don't expect them to do their research that well. And here, I only included this in the TV collection because it involves stop-motion dinosaurs from Sid and Marty Krofft, the original Land of the Lost series. Absolutely amazing. Loved this as a kid. And here we have, I don't think this is an official release, but it looks pretty genuine enough, the Toei Japanese Spider-Man series. Absolutely bizarre, but that's what the Japanese did. Rather than having Peter Parker bit by a radioactive spider, there's this Japanese guy that gets his powers from some old guy from the planet Spider. I kid you not, that's the actual explanation or whatever. And here we have, I believe this is all the way from, I forget where, Malaysia, I want to say? I believe it's from Malaysia. Only 4 volumes of Ultraman 80. This does not have all the episodes, this only has 4 or 5 in each disc for some reason. I only found these at some sort of weird VHS shop that I found in a big city. Again, hopefully Mill Creek will be able to release Ultraman, the complete series of Ultraman 80 on DVD, so we'll see. And then of course we have, I don't even know if this is an official release, but it looks pretty bad. But anyway, Ultraman 2, which I believe is just a movie of Ultraman, the Ultraman, if you will, with Ultraman Jonas. Nothing really to say about it, really. Now we're getting to the good ones. This right here is the complete box set of Ultraman Tiga. I do own the shirt. I have it in my closet. And I have pretty much all of the DVDs of the Ultraman Tiga series. This was extremely hard to find. Now, with the first 2 DVDs, these are pretty easy and cheap to find, especially the 4th one. But for some really dumb reason, the third volume DVD was extremely rare and extremely expensive and extremely hard to find. I don't know why. The first time I got one of these, it only had the 2nd disc, and I ordered this off of Amazon, and I kind of complained about it. And of course they gave some sort of dumb excuse well, it said that it only came with 1 disc, and that's a flat-out lie. But eventually I did find an actual one on eBay that actually had both the discs, thankfully. And with the box set itself right here, it only included this little thing in the Volume 1 DVD, but it also included the t-shirt, and this was another one I ordered off of Amazon. Not in the best shape, but it's still in great condition, and the shirt was just basically fresh out of the bag or whatever. I plan to take care of that for as long as I live. But it's a pretty good collection, but I would say I'm pretty happy that this is all complete. It's pretty great, but really expensive and rare to find. But again, I hope that Mill Creek will be able to release this on Blu-ray, the complete series, rather than having it be rare and obscure or just expensive or whatever. And speaking of which, we're getting into the Mill Creek side of Ultraman. So here we have the birth of Ultraman, which is a bonus thing, basically showing the original live premiere special of Ultraman before the series actually came out on TV. And then it's just a few episodes of Ultraman that's just dubbed in English. I, for one, find that to be a bit dumb. Of course, I understand that Mill Creek wants to release, you know, all the series in the original Japanese audio. That's fine. But lots of people have complained that the original Ultraman, you know, couldn't include both the American audio or English audio with also the original Japanese audio. Lots of fans complained about that. I, for one, am not someone who really cares about it that much, but, you know, they did it with the Mill Creek version on DVD in an okay way. Not great, but whatever. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to the other Mill Creek releases. Now, I know Mill Creek has released, you know, other versions of the original Ultraman series in, you know, a big order. Basically, when you collect them all, you make it all like a picture. But I'm that kind of person who wants to have them all, you know, to make room on my collection. So basically, I got the steel bookcases, and they have a nice Series 1 label. So I'm just going to go down the line. So I have Ultra Q right here, and I have the original Ultraman. And then anything about all these is that they have a booklet that comes with it, and it's really cool. There are some little flubbles that are in there, some mistakes in there, but other than that, I think it's alright. Then we have Ultra 7. And finally, we got our very first release of Return of Ultraman, which is awesome. And the same will go with Ultraman Ace and Ultraman Taro. And of course, very soon they're going to be releasing Ultraman Leo and hopefully Ultraman 80? I don't know, I'm just only aware of Ultraman Leo, but I do plan to get that very soon. And then with the more newer Ultra series, we have Neo Ultra Q, which I honestly did not expect to be released, but still pretty cool. And then we have Ultraman Ginga, which is very awesome of how they released both the first Ultraman Ginga and Ultraman Ginga S and the movie, and also Ultra Fight Victory included in this set. It's exactly how I pictured it, and it's awesome. The same thing goes for when they're releasing Ultra Galaxy Mega Monster Battle. They're releasing that, the first series, and Never Ending Odyssey, and the movie. And they're even releasing Ultraman Zero with like 2 movies and 2 specials, which is exactly how I pictured it. It's awesome. And here we have the complete series of Ultraman X and the movie. And here we have Ultraman Orb, the complete series, and the movie. And then here we have Ultraman Orb, the Origin Saga, which also includes Ultra Fight Orb. And then we have Ultraman Geed and the movie. And at last we have the more recent Ultraman RB and the movie. So that pretty much does it for my entire Kaiju TV series, movies, whatever collection. If there's some stuff you like, let me know. If you have some suggestions for anything that I might want to include in my collection, let me know. Let's just talk. Let's just talk about like whatever, you know, Kaiju related stuff or whatever. Again, I just wanted to make some sort of video in time for Godzilla vs. Kong. Very excited for that movie to come out. Absolutely happy. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any suggestions for anything else that you want to see or want to see me do, just let me know. Thanks for watching.